Why does your life feel stuck, even when you try so hard to change it? The reason is pretty simple, and it's because the part of you that's in control isn't the one that thinks it is. Most people are trying to build a better future with the same invisible wiring that built their past. You can read, journal, chase goals, but if your subconscious mind is running on outdated programming, you'll end up circling the same problems with different faces. That frustration you feel when nothing seems to shift, it's not your fault. It's your subconscious. And unless you change the code, the outcome won't change either. What is the subconscious really? Your subconscious is not a vague spiritual idea as most people think. Instead, it is the layer of your mind that stores everything you've absorbed without question, from the way you were loved to the way people around you reacted when you spoke up, cried, or asked for more. Studies suggest that up to 95% of your thoughts, actions, and emotional responses come from the subconscious. That means most of your life is unfolding in the background, shaped by ideas you didn't even choose. It's fast, automatic, and incredibly powerful, but it doesn't think the way your conscious mind does. It doesn't ask questions. It doesn't analyze. It simply repeats what it knows. So if what it knows is pain, rejection, or scarcity, that's what it recreates. And until you bring that programming into the light, it continues to influence your relationships, money, body, and self-worth without resistance. The subconscious was built for survival, not joy. It prefers patterns over peace. That's why most personal transformation doesn't fail because of a lack of effort. It fails because the subconscious never got the message. Now that you have a clearer sense of what the subconscious really does, it's time to look at how it quietly shapes your entire life. 1. Your subconscious is running the show, and you're just the mascot. You're not waking up and deciding your life each day. You're waking up and running a script that was installed years ago. It dictates how you feel about money, love, success, failure, and even yourself, without needing your permission. You think you're making new choices, but you're mostly just following instructions that were never updated. Researchers at Harvard and MIT have shown that habitual neural loops form early in life, and the brain automates behavior to save energy. But the problem is, it doesn't check if those patterns are good for you. It just runs them. That's why you can end up in the same kind of relationship, the same emotional cycles, or the same self-doubt, no matter how badly you want something else. Most people live like the spokesperson of their own life, reciting lines written by fear, shame, and learned helplessness. Real change begins the moment you stop asking, "What do I want to do?" and start asking, "Who is deciding what I want?" 2. You think you're making choices. You're just repeating programming. That voice in your head telling you you're not good enough. It's not yours. It was planted, sometimes by the way you were spoken to, sometimes by silence, sometimes by what people around you accepted as normal. Either way, it didn't start with you, but you've been repeating it like a prayer. Most of your thoughts aren't original, they're inherited, from parents, schools, media, and peers. They reflect the environment more than the truth. And once those thoughts became familiar, they started feeling like facts. That's the trap. What feels right is often just what's been repeated the longest. That's why awareness alone isn't enough. You can know you're worthy on the surface and still feel unworthy in your actions. Until you interrupt the old loop and choose something radically unfamiliar, you're not deciding. You're just reacting. 3. You're addicted to the familiar even if it's destroying you. Your subconscious doesn't care if something makes you happy. It only cares if it feels familiar. That's why people stay in cycles they hate, not because they love pain, but because they trust what they recognize. Pain, when predictable, feels safer than joy that might disappear. This is why toxic relationships feel like home to some people, why peace makes others anxious, why some sabotage progress as soon as things get better. The subconscious mind treats different as dangerous, even if the current reality is deeply unfulfilling. Comfort zones aren't about comfort, they're about repetition. What feels safe is often what's simply been practiced the most. You won't escape the pattern by thinking harder, you'll escape it by choosing what feels wrong at first but is actually right. 4. Trauma becomes a blueprint until you burn it. When something wounds you deeply, especially as a child, it doesn't just hurt, it builds a structure. One that says, "This is how love works," or "This is how you'll be treated," or "This is what you deserve." That blueprint becomes the silent architect of your adult life. You might be chasing success, but deep down you're reenacting old pain. You find partners who echo your childhood neglect. You recreate chaos because silence once felt unsafe. Trauma doesn't just live in your past, it builds your future unless you disrupt it. Healing isn't about reliving the wound, it's about refusing to let it write the next chapter. The question isn't whether something bad happened to you. The question is whether that pain still gets to decide how you live now. 5. You automatically attract what you secretly believe you deserve. You might say you want love, respect, abundance, but if the part of you that runs the show doesn't believe you're worthy of it, it'll find ways to reject or repel those things. That's not self-sabotage. That's subconscious consistency. The mind wants alignment between belief and reality. So if the belief is, I'm not lovable, then a loving partner will feel threatening. You'll either push them away or choose someone who confirms the belief. Not because you want pain, but because pain matches the script. Life mirrors your internal world with frightening accuracy. Until you upgrade the belief, nothing you add to your external life will feel like it fits. You'll either lose it, dismiss it, or feel disconnected from it. Worth is not a mindset, it's a frequency, and your subconscious sets the dial. 6. Your inner voice is an inherited lie. That running commentary inside your head, it's not objective, it was trained. Many people are walking around with internal monologues that sound more like the adults who hurt them than the truth of who they are. That voice isn't insight, it's memory. If your inner voice shames you for resting, it probably came from someone who tied love to productivity. If it mocks you for wanting more, it might reflect the limits of someone who never gave themselves permission to grow. Your voice of doubt is often someone else's fear wearing your face. You don't have to believe every thought you hear. The mind repeats what it knows, but you get to choose what stays. The question is no longer, is this true, but who does this belong to? 7. Without reprogramming, success feels like a threat, not a goal. If you grew up in chaos, peace feels unfamiliar. If you were taught to expect struggle, ease feels suspicious. That's why so many people unconsciously sabotage their wins. It's not weakness, it's conditioning. The subconscious has a comfort range. Step outside it and it sounds the alarm, even if you're stepping into something better. You miss deadlines, ghost opportunities, start fights, delay the launch. Not because you don't want it, but because part of you believes you don't belong there. That's why repeating affirmations doesn't work if they don't match your wiring. You can say, I am successful all day, but if your body flinches when money comes in, you're not aligned. Until safety is associated with growth, growth will always feel like danger. 8. You can't out-hustle your subconscious beliefs. You can try to fix your life with action, but if the belief underneath the action is broken, it won't last. People burn out not because they're weak, but because they're trying to outperform a system that's rejecting the upgrade. The subconscious doesn't care how much you do. It listens to what you believe while doing it. If you launch a business from fear, fear becomes its foundation. If you build a relationship from insecurity, insecurity becomes its home. You can't override a belief system with busyness. Most people aren't lazy. They're exhausted from trying to swim upstream against their own mental programming. Real power doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from cleaning up what's driving the push in the first place. 9. The subconscious only responds to emotion, not logic. You can tell yourself you're safe, loved, and capable, but if your nervous system doesn't feel it, it won't stick. That's because the subconscious responds to emotion, not logic. That's why emotional events leave deeper imprints than rational arguments ever could. This is also why trauma rewires us so deeply. It's not because of what we know, but because of what we felt when it happened. The emotional charge is what seals it into the subconscious. If you want to change it, you need to introduce a new emotion, not just a new idea. That's why deep change often begins with breath, presence, and body work. Because if your body still feels unsafe, no amount of positive thinking will land. Feeling is the language of the subconscious. Speak it or don't expect it to listen. 10. If you want a new life, you have to kill the old mind. You can't decorate a house that's burning. You have to rebuild, not tweak, not tidy up. Tear down the beliefs, the identities, the loyalties to pain, the comfort in shame. That's the real cost of change. Letting go of the version of you that survived but never thrived. Transformation isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. But to live as that person, you'll have to say goodbye to the stories, the rules, the old maps that never led you home. You don't need more willpower. You need new wiring, And it starts the moment you stop arguing for your limits and start building from a different blueprint, one that wasn't drawn in fear. If you have made it this far, comment down below with the word 100% to confirm that you have received the knowledge from this video. For more interesting topics, make sure you watch the recommended video that you see on the screen right now. Thanks for watching.